we want to welcome you all to another in our series of the Resilient East Africa Challenge. By the way, that is the hashtag, if you so wish, mold a culture as we continue to keep our heads above water. And today we have a very interesting topic about leading teams remotely. And just to make it clear, this is not just for team leaders or managers or executives. This is for all of us, because all of us are leaders in some form or fashion. So I hope you'll all get something out of it. Again, my role as the moderator for today is to take in your questions. And having said that, the chat line is going to be closed right now. We will open it up periodically throughout this webinar to allow you to ask your questions, to give your comments, and to present any ideas. We'll also have a number of polls running through this. So there will be plenty of opportunity for you to interact with us. And to let you know that for those of you who either joined late or perhaps would like to share this with somebody else, there will be a recording of this session available at some point today. You are all on mute, so please, would like you to focus on what is being said by our wonderful speaker today, who's none other than Vicky of Profiles International. Vicky, of course, is a business leader, an emotional intelligence coach, as well as a facilitator. So she'll be taking us through this session. And again, we'll have a few coaches who will be able to provide some of their wisdom. And I'm happy to say that Mary Mukindia is joining us as usual. Of course, Mary Mukindia, also an emotional intelligence coach with Genos, as well as a business leader. And she will be chiming in with, I think, relevant and succinct points. So without any further ado, I am going to hand this over to our one and only Vicky. Vicky, take it away. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Derek. And thank you everyone for joining us. This session is made possible by our partner Genos, who are leaders in applied emotional intelligence. So we do these sessions together with them. And if you go onto their website, it's something global, something that we are doing as a global unit. And a bit about Genos. Genos are a company in Australia, and they're actually listed as a top training company in the world by training industry, and they are all over the world and represented here in Kenya by us, the coaches, and by Profiles International. We talk about applied emotional intelligence because it's not about the probability that you will be emotionally intelligent. It's about how you are actually showing up. So we want to assess emotional intelligence at the level which you are, and then see how then we can take you along that journey of growth. And so the house rules have been taken. And as I start, the agenda for today is we're going to take a brief look at the neuroscience of emotions, because we've been doing this over the last few webinars. And then we're going to talk about leading a remote team in rapidly changing and uncertain environments. We're going to examine the challenges associated with leading a remote team. And then we're going to talk about how can we do this. So I'll expect that you will have a few things to share as well in the chats, and which we can read and share with everyone else, because wisdom is not a singular thing. It's not by me or by you, it's a collective. And so we start by looking at the science of emotions. All other previous webinars, we've talked about how emotions affect most of the things that we do. How? Because emotions affect how we react, how we are thinking. And when you experience pleasant emotions, for instance, when you I like giving this example. When you walk up to a coworker and out of the blue, they tell you, hey, how you doing? You look fabulous today. You instantly light up. I mean, you feel like, yeah, okay, so what's happening? And so when you leave that particular spot, you're most likely to be in an open state, a more creative state, because you've experienced something pleasant. And the opposite is true. So when you encounter in the same setting, a more unpleasant situation, maybe you bump into a colleague and there's something that wasn't done right, or something is wrong, and the first thing is they either maybe shout at you or there's an interchange. You end up feeling either defensive, you tend to close up. So your reactions after that, and you might not even know it, might be colored by the experience that you just had. You can either withdraw, or you can be a bit aggressive with someone else and they didn't deserve it. So emotions influence the way that we make our decisions, the way that we actually behave, and they also influence productivity, because we are encountering people in our day-to-day lives. We are creating relationships with people around us. So how empowering or how inspiring are we? How enabling are we of the situation, of them to be productive? Even for us, how are we attending to the work that we do? So emotions are neither good or bad. Like from the past session, we take a deeper look at them and say they're not bad, they're not good. They're points of data, points of information. How am I feeling today? And more importantly, why? What's driving this decision? What's driving this behavior? So they become points of data for us to find out more deeply what are the motives or motivations for doing some of the things that we do. And so we experience the world's whatever it gives us. So we might experience uncertainty. So this infographic has water. So what's underlying is actually what we're feeling, what's going through internally, what people can't see. And what's above is the behavior that might manifest. So when we're uncertain, we might start making assumptions because we want to create stories around situations. Someone else also said we might procrastinate because we're not clear, so we do not want to put one foot forward. We don't know what's going to happen. And that comes from feeling uncertainty. When we're stressed, we might end up being a bit aggressive. Others might end up withdrawing, and that's the behavior. So when we're anxious, the same thing. We might be reactive to everything. When we're worried, we focus on a problem. When you're worried about COVID, you focus on, are you washing your hands? Are you sanitizing your hands? Are you putting on a mask? So you focus more on the problem, and sometimes it may stop serving you because you might not be seeing the other wider picture that's there. And the list is endless. And as we move on to the opposite side, which is also true, when we are purposeful, we are able to engage more. When we create purpose around what we're doing, we then can be able to engage others in that same way because we have a reason. When we feel valued, it's very easy for us to reach out. When someone tells you something like, you look lovely today, it's easier for you after that to go and tell someone else another kind word. So when we feel valued, it's easier for us to also care for others. When we're informed, I think it's Derek was sharing the story of him watching a series that gave him a lot of information about COVID. Then you start understanding what the problem is and start focusing more on getting solutions. And so, and when we are empowered, then we can then be able to get innovative. So those are just emotions. They happen at any time, in any form. Someone once said that they're like weather patterns. They come and they go. You can't control them. So it's almost futile to say, I'm going to stop feeling a certain way. That's not why we study emotions. We want to use them as points of reference. But we're here to talk about the challenges that then we might face today when we're leading our remote team. So on your screens now should be a short poll. And the question is, what are your most significant challenges in leading your remote team, whatever that might be? It might even be reaching out to your small cluster of people who you work with. I don't know if Mary, you want to share what your challenges have been.
I haven't had a team. I think I'm only a team of one leader, coach, but I think where I'm on the boards, though it's been very much management, we're supporting the CEO. Mm-hmm. I think it has been keeping the team motivated, because there's so much emotions that are going on right now, and people are balancing work, home, working from home, maybe sometimes going to the office. So how you're keeping the whole morale in the fear of all that's happening. I think to me, I had an hour's discussion with an MD of a bank the other day. I think just getting people, I think it's people first. So to me, I would say that.
Okay.
So Vicky, the poll results are coming in.
Yes.
And it looks like it's what Mary was sharing, keeping the team motivated. That's in front right now. We have keeping the team's productivity second. Third, managing their stress levels and well-being. And then communicating effectively and managing the workflow, bringing up the rear. So keeping the team motivated. I think we'll just keep this going on for a few more seconds, and then we'll close it. And then I can give you the final results, Vicky.
Okay. So I think for me,
yeah, go for it.
Probably it's, I don't know which one. It's probably managing stress levels and well-being.
I think on a personal level, it's always managing stress, and on a leadership, when you're responsible for a home, for children, for staff, it must be really keeping them motivated.
Yeah. So I can see that keeping the team morale is actually the highest with about 14 votes, 45%. The rest, the next one is keeping the team's productivity. So they're like, well, I think keeping the team motivated takes the cup. So, okay, we can see, yeah?
I think that means that you have quite a number of people listening who are in leadership positions, whether it's middle management, senior management at the top level, or in every area of their life. I think many of our listeners are responsible for people. That's probably what it tells me.
Okay. So let's explore why this might be, why this actually happened. So there are two aspects to leadership. There's the what needs to be done, when and how. And then there's the how. Okay, so I meant the what, the piece. And then there's the how. How does this get done? What do we have to do? What do these people need? What support do they need? And that's actually what we're going to tackle today, the how, your people. So they know what needs to be done, but how do they actually do it? And what might be the things that might be stopping them from getting motivated or keeping productivity? So the first thing we're going to look at is what we call the ladder of inference. This theory has been there for a while, I think since back in the 70s. It was by a Greek guy who, forgive me because I forgot his name, but his first name is Chris. I will send it out to you immediately after this with the newsletter that we send out. And he talked about a ladder of inference on how we process the information that we see, how we perceive data, how it goes through our mind, and how we actually take action or form beliefs or make assumptions based on a lot of the things that we go through. Now, we should not think that this thing takes forever. We don't see it and observe and then select the data. It takes seconds. You might not even be aware that you're doing it. So one case in point is me and Mary decide we're going to meet for coffee. And so I show up on time because I love being on time, but Mary is a bit late. And for some reason, her phone is not going through, either it's off or something. So at that particular point, my data is that Mary is not here and I'm not able to reach her. So I have the opportunity to add meaning to that. So, and it will depend on my relationship with Mary. If I don't know her, I might assume that, okay, so what happened? And if I'm getting a bit irritated, see the emotion checking in, I might start thinking maybe she doesn't really respect people's time. Now I'm making assumptions. Or on the other side, I might be saying, okay, so what really could have happened? Maybe something did happen to her. Maybe I need to find it out. And so we start drawing conclusions onto what do we then need to do and forming beliefs around the situation. One belief might be that I don't think I'll ever ask Mary for coffee again. In fact, she better come to where I work, because if this is how she keeps trying, I can't see us working like this. And I take action. I might leave, I might give her a few minutes. On the other hand, I might call her friends. Have you heard from Mary? Her phone is off. I don't know what's happening. So in that short time, we have gone through this whole ladder of inference. And so it happens over and over again. And it's happening for you. It's happening for the people that you lead. But the problem is now they're not nearby. They're not in what people are calling now your command center. They're not, you can't see them. You can't walk up to them and tell them, so what are you thinking? What's happening? They're far away from you. But even as you're working away from each other, you're still making assumptions. So at this particular time, it is important to recognize that we are all climbing ladders. Yeah. We're all making our assumptions. One of the things you saw down there is when we're uncertain, we want to make assumptions. So we are all climbing ladders. Whatever that ladder is for the other person might not be for you. You might both be looking at the same set of emails, but because of my ladder, I choose to pick particular emails that I think are important. Maybe I think the client is important, or I think the work is important. And when I reach out and ask, why did you do that? I mean, there's these other emails that you should have really focused on. But my ladder is not the same as yours. I'm using different sets of beliefs, actually, because the data is the same. Different sets of beliefs to form my own assumptions. So to shortcut that ladder of inference, we have to explore what our team members are thinking. Explore their assumptions. Talk to them. Explore what you're thinking, what your assumptions might actually be about situations. And I think people have said this over and over again, but now that you know that people are making assumptions and climbing ladders, you can even use that analogy, climbing ladders, you have to listen with the intent to understand. What are they telling you? What are they not telling you? And ask more clarifying questions on what do they actually mean when they say something. And so more than ever, we find ourselves having to take a coaching approach to all our conversations with the people around us. So it's no longer you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. It's more like I need to understand where you're coming from. And so I also need to explain to you where I'm coming from. And if you have a team, I think it's important to actually look for opportunities to offer clarity to whatever you're going through. Don't think that, sometimes, especially when you're a bit more of an independent person, you think that people don't want to be repeated for. I think we should do this and this and this. And then you ask the person, so what have we all agreed? And you might think that you're being a bit banal. But the thing is, you're actually providing the opportunity for people to come up and give you their version. And should it differ significantly for yours, then you have a chance to correct it. So that you're both on the same page and you're not getting conflicts that arise from just making assumptions. So I'll ask before we go to the next one, if you can just briefly think back about how many ladders you've been climbing, making decisions. Mary, how many ladders have you been climbing?
Oh my goodness. At this time of being locked in, I think I just got an aha moment the way I deal with my son who's 24. And he actually says, Mom, you're just always assuming I'm bad or I've done something. I immediately just jump to conclusion. You see, you're like this, and I really need to stop. Yeah. I'm hoping about a few ladders. Yeah, even on a personal level.
Maybe on the chat group, you can share what ladders you see people climbing, because we all climb ladders, and it's kind of up to us to try and short circuit those ladders based on how. Yes, Derek?
No, I was going to say we've opened up the chat, so if people want to pop in a question, or if they have any comments or any ideas on climbing ladders, we can involve you in this conversation.
Yeah.
But Vicky, I had a question for you. How can you use this ladder of inference, particularly when it comes to problem solving within meetings? And now that these meetings are being done remotely.
Yeah. Okay, so what I would actually suggest to everyone is give this analogy to the people that you're with about climbing ladders. It's kind of removed, so you're not really talking to one particular person, you're giving them an analogy, and it helps them understand how they are also making assumptions about the process. But if you're in a meeting and you're looking to get a solution on something, listen, give people more time to talk. Yeah, give people more time to actually tell you what's going on. You might be assuming that people are maybe not weighing in because they don't have anything to say, but it could be a lot of reasons why they can't speak. Maybe there's a baby on their lap, maybe there's so many other reasons. So really give people reasons to air out their views so that you are able to see where they're coming from. What's their train of thought? Is it in line with, are you both aligned first and foremost? Yeah, because if you're not aligned, then whatever it is that you're trying to achieve becomes harder. Yeah, it becomes now a battle first to try and get to this person is doing this and this person is doing that, so something goes wrong. And so that conflict leads to delayed, can I say delivery? And so you need to give people more time to talk about whatever it is, to weigh in on the solutions, to state their assumptions if they can, and for you to also state your assumptions. And I think that breeds a better ground for coming up with solutions that actually will work, now that you don't have the opportunity to keep coming, and you don't have the opportunity to meet with people and talk about it on the go. As you're doing something, I can walk to you, then also what are you doing? These are intervals where people are far away from you. So you really need to give that time to talk and listen. Yeah.
Vicky, another question has come in from Kezi. She asks, how do we know what ladders my team members are on?
Okay, Mary, you were saying something before I answer that. Okay, Mary, were you saying something?
Yes, I was just going to quickly say that one of the tips I use a lot, and it's a coaching thing, I mean, you're aware, Derek knows it, is that I actually, and it works in coaching, I need to bring it more in my private life, is to paraphrase back to the people what you're hearing them say in their words. So somebody talks, and then you say, so what I hear you saying is da 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 da, using their words, not your words, their exact words. And then they will have that opportunity to confirm back, yes, we're on the same ladder. Because sometimes you may paraphrase it using a separate word, and there's a reason they said one word. So that's one tip that I learned from coaching that is very, very useful for leaders.
Fantastic, thanks, Mary. There was a question from Kezi on, sorry, I didn't catch that. How do you know what ladders your team members are climbing? You won't know until they share it with you. I don't even know what ladders my own husband is climbing at the moment. But we form ladders for every single moment or opportunity that we have that we feel uncertain about. And that's the key. So am I doing something with you, Kezi, at this particular moment? And since we are not together, in fact, as Mary said, let's have a discussion where we actually try to align and find out, are we making the same assumptions here? So that coaching technique is very important. If you're looking for a solution, maybe one way is to ask people as well, so what would you do? Yeah, so what would you do? And then listen back. You might be the leader, but understand what would they do? Then listen back and say, okay, fine, I hear you. And those kind of conversations are what is going to work at this time. Any other questions, Derek?
There's just a quick comment here from Janet. She says she likes that one of rephrasing what you're hearing or what I am hearing. And she says it's worked for her too.
Yeah. Okay, so the second part is really understanding your team and what actually drives them. This is a favorite part of mine because I dwell a lot on assessments. So I love presenting this topic. But people are primarily driven by two needs: the need for control and the need to affiliate with other people. I'm sure right now you're already thinking about who in the office is a control freak. Probably nothing can happen without them. So we're going to do a short exercise, and in front of you is two axes. One is red to purple, and another one is orange to blue. So I want us to look at the vertical axis, the one that is red to purple. On the top there is high need for control, and on the bottom there is low need for control. So I want you to plot someone, a teammate, someone in your office. So you can draw the axis. And the first thing you ask yourself is, do they have a high need to control or a low need to control? A high need to control is everything has to happen in the way that it has to happen, and constantly checking to make sure that you're aligned in a particular way. Low need for control is whatever. I mean, you can tell them, okay, so we're meeting on Friday. Yes, okay, I'm cool, I'm fine. We've changed it to Saturday. Okay, what time? Yeah, I'm fine. These ones will be like, why are we changing it to Saturday? But you told us it was Friday. So, but you see, I already booked my Friday. So you have to analyze them and just first find out which side do they fall, the high or the low. And then if they're on the low, you might think, okay, they're not too much on the low. So start plotting them on how low do you think they are. And the reverse is also true. How high do you think they are? So they're either a 2, 4 on the high or a 2, 4, 6, 8 on the low. Once you're done. Yes?
No, sorry, I was just going to jump in really quickly. Just as you're plotting one person on that graph on the high side and the low side. And you can't do 10, 0, or 0, 0. So they have to fall somewhere in between just to make the exercise work. I don't.
Yeah. You can't plot anyone on 0. No, you'd rather even put them on a 0 to either side. Yeah, yes. Thanks, Derek. So, and then the horizontal as well, you can't plot anyone on the 0. So do they have a high need to be with other people for affiliation? Do they have a high need for relationships? Basically is what we're saying. Or are they a loner? Are they a recluse? Do they prefer to be quiet most of the time and away from people, almost in total isolation, although that's not really possible. But I guess you can get my drift. So if they have a lower need for affiliation than most people, then you'll start plotting them on the side, on the blue side, 2, 4, 6, 8. And if they have a higher need for affiliation than most people, again, you plot them on the orange side. And I'm hoping all of you can see the colors. I might be the one saying them wrong. So at the end of it, you should have a dot on the vertical, or a circle, or an X on the vertical line axis. And you should also have another star, circle, cross on the horizontal axis. So what I want you to do is just draw a perpendicular line across the 2 dots. So if it's perpendicular, it will be a horizontal line. If it's on the horizontal axis, it will be a vertical line. And then where those 2 meet, put a dot. Are there any charts coming in on? I hope everyone is getting this.
Right, there's no comments coming in, so I'm assuming that everybody has been able to follow your directions and they are plotting their graphs. Okay.
So what we're actually trying to do is we're trying to put people in 4 sections or 4 areas. The science of personalities, of course, is a lot more detailed than this, but largely this is very accurate for most people. And so looking at the dot that the place that the 2 intersected, find out whether they fell on the red box, or on the orange box, or on the purple box, or on the blue box.
So Vicky, if you could just go back to the chart itself so that we can take one more look at that.
Okay.
Previous slide. Okay.
Mary, who did you plot?
You know, last time I plotted somebody, but today I've plotted myself. And I am really balancing because I know I'm full of control. I'm definitely a 9-10 on control. And about high need for affiliation with people, sometimes I can stay in my house throughout the whole weekend, and even in the office, I want to be the one in charge. So I thought I have a high need of affiliation with people, but I'm coming a bit maybe to the low need, but about 2. So my chart is actually really funny. I'm between orange and red, which is my personality actually. So I need to reduce the high need for control.
There's a reason for everything. So can I go on, Derek?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay. So basically what we've plotted is people with a high need for control and a high need for affiliation fall in the red box. So what you'll notice about these people is what's in the box: self-confidence, fast-paced, everything is urgent, very results and task-oriented, and a bit quite competitive and practical. And then on the other side of high need for control, but now high need for affiliation are the enthusiastic people, the talkers, the sellers, very persuasive, animated, emotional. I like saying that they have, I think they carry the words for two of the groups here. They're really talkative and they're very expressive. And then on the other side, on the lower side, low need for control, low need for affiliation, we have the blue guys: accurate, serious, orderly, sensitive, cautious, perfectionist. So the guys who actually make sure that everything is correct to the detail. Detail really matters to them. Being accurate is top notch. And on the other side, for low need for control and high need for affiliations, are the calm guys, the guys who offer you the support that you need. They might be reserved, but they're agreeable and you can depend on them for anything. And so they keep the pace going. It will be steady, but it will go and they will deliver at the end. So all these people are very important. So if you're feeling like you need to lose your high need for control, there's a reason why you are there high need for control. And there's someone down here who will always temper you. So every single person is important. And I think we are all put here. In fact, I always say, before we talk about diversity in culture, let's talk first about diversity in people ourselves. We are very diverse and we are all very important. So we find, if we can go deeper into just looking at this, you need to look at your team. If your teammates, you've placed anyone in the red box, then you need to understand how you're going to be able to deal with them on a day-to-day basis, even when they're far away. You need to understand that they're probably going to be very task-based, and they'll want, of course, to control all the situation and the things that's happening. They want you to be clear and concise about how you communicate to them. Don't beat about the bush. Don't be uncertain. If you don't know, say you don't know. Don't play around with words. They want you to give them autonomy. They want decisions made like yesterday. They want clarity. They don't do well with muddled waters. And they want to see progress and make decisions. So you might also understand that they're not the people who are going to bring enthusiasm to your team. They're not the people who are going to be the ones building relationships. And that's going to be a point where you might need to either pull them up and say, hey, you need to weigh in on your team, once in a while and check in on how they're doing. So that's you as a leader trying to help them also get into the team, because it doesn't come naturally to them. They might just boom, and then the COVID-19 is over. And they're coming back, they hardly know anyone else. but that's on a light note. And on the other side, your talkative person, your orange person, when you log in to talk to them, or even at a team meeting, you must understand that they have more to say than most other people. And they need to say it. They need to tell you what ideas they have thought of in this COVID-19. They've probably thought of how we're going to survive it. They're fast-paced. They like balanced positivity. They want to check in regularly, as opposed to the red guys who want autonomy. They want to check in regularly. You remember, they have a high need for affiliation. They want chances to express themselves, and they want to collaborate. They want to sit on a meeting table and talk about ideas. Give yourself that chance to listen to their ideas. They're really good ideas. And so they then can also get in the way, because sometimes they may tend to talk too much. And so either sidelining meetings, so you must also be aware of that, and you must also make them aware of that fact. And so when it stops being productive, then you must help them. They'll probably come out of COVID-19 having talked to everyone, and found out how they are. They're the guys who tell you what's happening. So-and-so had a baby, so-and-so did this. They're the guys who feed you that information. So that's a good thing to know about them. They'll tell you the nitty-gritties of everyone. And so the guys who have a low need for control, but a high need of affiliation, these are the calm guys, very supportive. They will work collaboratively with you. They will listen to you. And especially if you're the dominant person, they will listen to you. They do not like conflict. And they're very dependable. They love finishing what they started. And that's the strength that they actually bring. but they need a close working relationship because because of the high need for affiliation with people. They need your support, they need your reassurance. So if you find yourself being more of the red kind of person, you might tend to think that they want autonomy. They don't do very well without a lot of check-ins. So they also want you to check in on them. But then again, because of their reserved nature, they might not speak up. So it's up to you to bring them out. So what are you thinking? So what's happening here? Let's have your thoughts. Otherwise, you'll never hear from them. And every single one of members of your team has something to say, something valuable to say. If you don't ask them, they might never tell you. They might, like they will hold back and probably tell someone that they feel comfortable with. So you might want to build this relationship slowly but surely. And so the last group, the accurate people, the serious people, orderly people, sensitive. The thing with this group is that they are also autonomous. They want to work independently. They focus on accuracy, structure. And so they will tend to be the people who check the details. So whatever you said, they will check your details, find out what you're actually telling you. They need a lot of clarity in what you're communicating. They're logical thinkers and they pride themselves on being critical thinkers as well. So when you're presenting a solution, they want to understand where that solution is coming from. What analysis did you do? The one thing about them is because of their low need for affiliation, they might also not speak out as much as you would like them to. They might be the people you refer to sometimes as passive aggressive. They withhold, but sometimes they don't really withhold. They want you to, ask them questions. When it's really, really important, they'll give feedback. But if it's not taken, they probably will never do it again. So you might want to draw them into discussions, listen in on their detailed analysis. It helps a lot. And then also try and encourage them to also check up on others, respond when they're checked up on. They're the kind of people who you check on them and they might grant, oh, no, okay. So other members might feel that guy don't even bother going to him because he doesn't even appreciate the fact that we're trying to find out how he is. So as a leader, you must understand where your people sit in these 4 boxes and then how then you can use that, or you can coach them as you're talking to them. First, how they're also going to try and navigate this COVID-19, what are they struggling with and why they're struggling with them. I think this is also another exercise you can do with your team and get them to plot themselves around the circle and to make for interesting discussions. One of the things I think works very well is having a team session for a team session's sake. It has no work, no nothing, and it can have things like this where people just discuss about styles, discuss about the lot of assumptions they made during that week. And so they begin also to start identifying the things that are probably causing them a lot more angst or anxiety. I am sure many people have done personality assessments, and if they have, pull them up and discuss them and see how they play out in working remotely from others in this session. So, working from home challenges. What are the things that you think your team has told you that they are having a challenge with the most? I think there's another poll coming up. Derek.
Vicky, just before that poll, a couple of people had shared their DISC profile results.
Okay.
So we have a red from Sylvia. We have a fall in the orange from Rebecca. Mary, low red to orange, and Jess says orange. But just as a question, is it possible to move? Let me just put my video on. Is it possible to change boxes as life and work situations change, or are we perhaps stuck with this through our lives?
It is possible, but you have to have a motivation. You have to have a motivation for changing. With everything, I don't want to say reward, but you must encounter certain situations that make you change the way you view the world. It's actually about how you view the world and less about you, because all these behaviors, you can exhibit all of them. It's just that you've chosen some to define who you are. So you can change. Situations can make you change. Life-changing situations change people all the time. And when you change from one end to the other, and we'll even see it, if you used to wear flat shoes, we'll see you wearing high heels, strutting across the street. So you'll see it. It will manifest in your behavior as well. So you can change, yeah.
Okay, Kezi says she's a strong orange. John Olusola joining us from Nigeria. Welcome, John. Says, I operate in red for many reasons, but I consciously move into other colors to build my team.
Yeah, we can actually exhibit a lot of the other things. I personally envy the green, what are they, the purples, the calm ones. I wish I could be so calm. I really, really envy that ability to just stay the course. So I'm sure we also have styles we envy, and then styles we should move more towards that. Any other comments?
Well, Rebecca says, when you have a coach, will this help you assist to move from one box to another? I guess that's a question. If you have a coach, will they help you assist from one box to another? Mary, what do you think? Does having a coach help you move from one box to another?
I think it can help you become very aware of your behavior and the impact that has on others, particularly if you start building up, your own awareness of others. And then you can make a conscious effort to listen and to value other people's opinion. I know that when I was younger, I was this corporate, fast tracking. I was Mrs. Atlas, I was carrying the world. And I thought, I had all the answers. But as I get older, I start to realize everybody has a voice and a reason for saying what they say, and it's important to listen to others. And so I start to really try and listen as a leader to what, Vicky was talking about. And you can find yourself starting to say, actually, my impact on others when it's all about me doesn't bring about the result. So yes, a coach can help you understand your behavior, understand the impact of others. And if you have a goal then to want to change, that coach can walk with you on that journey and work together on behaviors that will change to the goal that you want to get. Yeah.
Thank you. Vicky, just a couple more comments. Okay. Teresa says she's between a blue and a purple. Violet, I think, put you on her profile and says, you are a purple to me, Vicky. Teresa,
we need
she works closely with you. She knows you best, right? And Teresa says she admires red and oranges. Nixon says he's a blue, and David Masai says boxes are very useful. I see where my management lies and how to relate with them, understanding team dynamics.
Yes.
So thank you very much for those comments and that feedback, everybody.
Okay, yeah, so these are all very useful they're useful as conversation starters. They're useful to try and understand your team better. Even for them to tell you how they view you as your teammate or manager. Yeah, very useful tools. And what I love about them is that they don't come up from a point of you. They're external, they're outside. If we're making ladder of assumption, we're talking about ladder of assumption. We're talking about how Mary makes assumptions all the time. We're talking about, do you know how we make the ladder of assumption? So we are using something else that makes the conversation much easier to have with our teammates. So we might be having a conversation like, yeah, you're right there, you're climbing the ladder, right there. So it makes easier for conversation and objectivity. So we had a poll about what are people saying? What is your team saying is the single most difficult challenge that they're having during this time? So we have unplugging. Unplugging is just not being able to get away from work. We have distractions. I mean, being too distracted in the house. Okay, there we go. Distractions are started. We have staying motivated, and we have communication. So we're going to share with you, Mary will share with you some of the insights after we finish the poll of what we got from the last session that we ran on Thursday. But I can see distractions is 62%, 59%, and second, staying motivated. Okay. Mary, I think you were saying from the global survey, what was the largest one? What was the biggest challenge?
In a global survey, actually the largest was unplugging. which was really big. And a surprising one, which we didn't see at all, and you didn't put in this poll because it doesn't work for us in Africa and in Kenya, was loneliness was number 2. But certainly, the international poll that was done at the end of last year was unplugging. But would you like me to say what we did in the last 2 sessions we've had, the webinars?
Yeah, sure.
Or we wait for...
No, just share because we are closing now. We closed actually. Okay.
In the first one on 14th April, the highest with 65% was distractions. 65% then felt distractions. And the number 2 was staying motivated. But the one we just had this last week on the 23rd of April, it really dropped. I think the mix was different, and it was still number 1, distractions with 36%, but very close was unplugging with 30%. How do you unplug, when you're, at home from the work into your personal life? So that was the second with 30. So 36, 30, that was interesting. But certainly distractions in Kenya, in both our polls, has been the number 1.
Okay. So even here, distractions is number 1 with about 55%. And then staying motivated is the second in this instance. So unplugging is not such a problem here. But still distraction keeps coming up as the first thing, at least in this part of the world. I guess because of the things that we are going through, we are home with children as well. We are home with so many. I remember one of the chats, one person said, all of a sudden, everyone is at home. Before I used to be alone, but now all of a sudden, everyone is at home with me. So I think that has also probably impacted on us guys thinking that distractions are big. So what do we do about unpluggings? And since unplugging is not such a problem, it seems like people have managed to set boundaries, clear boundaries on their work life, probably their professional life, and their home life. But should you find you have a colleague who finds unplugging a problem, then you can help them set their boundaries in terms of time, in terms of when they plug in. And they can even do the usual. They can, wake up in the morning, dress up for work, sit at that desk, and between this time and 1 o'clock, or between this and 10:15, I'm working. So you're helping them set those boundaries of this is my work time and this is my play time. The other thing is to be very conscious that if you have maybe kids around you or even your significant other, you need to set time for them as well. You might find yourself just getting into work. So you can help your colleagues set boundaries time-wise to enable them to unplug. They work at a certain place, and when they leave that place, they do not touch work. They go and do something else on somewhere else. So distractions, which is a really big one. So like we talked about it's all about now taking a more coaching, can I say more coaching approach? No, that's not correct English. But what I mean is that the approach you're going to have to take with your team is one of where you want to coach them. So you have to listen to them. The thing about the word coaching, you think it means telling someone what to do, but actually it means listening with the intent to really understand. So the amount of listening you do is like 80%, and the amount of talking is 20%. And most of the time it's not to guide people, but to ask them clarifying questions. And you can read a lot more, and Mary will talk about it as we wind up, on how to be more effective when you're handling the team. So you want to help them identify their distractions and see what they can do about them. And again, you want them to set boundaries. One of the areas everyone talks about social media, turn social media off, as in literally turn it off. Derek shared, and I think he can share in the chat, some of the apps you can share with your team that can help them manage social media time. And then the other thing is check in on progress, not just on progress of the work, but in progress of how are they managing their distractions. They have told you that this and this is a distraction. Social media for me is a distraction. This is a distraction. So check in and find out how are they doing about managing that distraction that you talked about. What are the proactive strategies that they're taking? What's working, what's not working, so that you're then helping them become more productive. The second one, which was a big one, was helping your team keep motivated. So help them establish new routines. Yeah. I think there's been very many pieces written on how to get up, brush your teeth, probably say your prayers, do a morning run. So what routines can actually, can they start developing that will help them stay motivated? Maybe work for 2 hours, break, do something. So talk to them and help them establish new routines. Role model well, yeah? So, I'm sorry, role model well-being based activities. Talk about what are those things that will actually contribute to them being able to tackle work more efficiently and in a more, can I say, healthy way? Because when we stay in one place and start getting demotivated, that again goes into the areas of, again, creating rumination, sometimes might end up in anxiety. So what are those activities, proactive strategies? Do they need to take a pause, time away to rest? Do they need to talk to someone when they're feeling a bit demotivated? Do they need to take a run? Some people, it's all about exercising. Or do they need to go out, take a walk, you know, enjoy the environment for some time? So really listen in and find out what are the activities that they can take in terms of thinking, physical, relationship-based, or just the environment. And I think that was covered with Derek's first video, which if you haven't watched it, there's a recording on what proactive strategies you can take to keep you motivated, keep you re-energized, and help enhance your psychological well-being. Then you have to adapt your leadership style to your team members' preferences. If you're a red, you should be also aware of the things that will be difficult for you to do. Leaning into your team might be difficult to do. Having small talk with your team might be difficult to do. But this might be what is required for you to actually be able to help your team get through working remotely. So you have to find out what is it, what do you have to do as you, the team leader, to help your team adapt. And then be flexible, be adaptable. Now is the time for servant leadership approach. And there was a poll, I think, or an article written by, I think, Josh Burstein, and we can share it, talking about how organizations are now taking care of their people so well because they understand the anxiety that can sometimes come from both the COVID, secondly, working away from the office. Even if 90% of the world's population would love to work in the office, up till COVID-19, 5% of the population is the only one that worked from home, Mary being one of them. So it wasn't a culture, it wasn't something we knew what to do, but we would have wanted to do it, but we really didn't know how to actually do it. So on communications, the one thing I think is absolutely important is daily check-ins. I don't think this can be underrated. Even if it's 15 minutes of, hi, how are you? Check in with your team on a daily basis, find out what's happening, even if it's just chit chat. It goes a long way, I think, in both productivity and just people hearing and being heard, you listening in for cues that you might not have had yesterday. And then apply focus to your conversations. I'll let Mary talk about coaching in a little while. And when you're talking to someone, remove distractions. If you're talking to me and I can't even see you, but I can feel you're distracted, I'm probably watching Netflix and I'm not even bothered with what you're doing. So I can, I think it's Mary who shared and said, if we can feel when other people are distracted when we talk to us, how come we don't think they can feel when we're distracted when we're talking to them? But I also think it's because sometimes we're not aware. So developing that awareness, you know, of I'm talking, I need to be a bit more intentional of when I'm talking to my team, when I'm listening in on them. And then just as we talked about assumptions, talk clearly to be understood. Try and tackle those ladders. As they said, let them paraphrase back to you. Ask them questions that will help you understand what it is that they're talking about. And then the last slide today is be intentionally vulnerable. This might be very difficult for some, but it's because this situation is one that we also don't know. We have no idea what's happening. And so sometimes when we put our guard up, we inadvertently sort of ask others to do the same. So I don't want to share. And so therefore someone else might feel either as if they're overburdening you, some of them will simply not share because they don't want also to look like the weaker people. So being vulnerable gives people the permission to share whatever it is that they're going through without you having to ask them even, because they're like, oh, okay. And so be intentionally vulnerable. Share so that others may also share. What are they going to do this journey? And then you can be able to really understand what your team is going through, because the whole purpose of this is to engage in your team and to ensure that they are able to navigate as much as well as everybody else. And if there's someone who really needs help, then you're also there for them. And then allow people to download. This one comes with a caveat, as appropriate, because downloads can range from anything, but you're the only person who can be the judge of what is appropriate, both for you and both for the other person. But at this particular time, it is a time when you really need to give people that open door policy, not just on matters of business, but on other matters pertaining to their own well-being and their own existence. So in summary, unproductive emotions will negatively impact everyone. They will negatively impact their physical and psychological well-being and therefore their productivity. So as a leader, then you want to try and be able to be flexible in how you manage people. You are able to listen in on what they're going through. Try and support them in the way that they want to be supported, not in the way that you want to support them, so that you can be effective and they can go about their work. I want to ask Mary to share a bit more about coaching. What tips can you give the audience on how to have a coaching approach to leadership?
I think, yeah, I think the whole coaching approach is that it's, you don't have the solution. It's the person that has the solution. There's so many leadership styles where we think that it's, bottom down. The leader has to think for everybody. And there's been different, coaching. I mean, there've been various leadership styles over the ages, from hierarchical to servant leadership to all kinds of leadership. Why I like the coaching style is that the whole essence of coaching assumes that everybody has the solutions in themselves. Everybody actually has innately within themselves, they know their solution. What we need is how can we help them in a very creative and thought-provoking way, get those solutions out of the people. So it's not one brain being used, but everybody's brain being used. And the coaching style is really to allow the people to have the space to relax, give them that trust. It's a safe space. Ask questions. That's what we call active listening. And it's us who thought provoke them so that they can be creative enough to come up with the solutions for themselves or for that organization goal. Active listening, creating those thoughtful questions, thought provoking, and partnering together so that somebody can. The whole premise, as I said, of coaching is that people have the solutions within themselves. It's not you telling people. And actually, when people come up with their own solution, they have more ownership because it's their solution. They can then be able to develop the action plan with the support of you as a coaching leader, with a coaching style to say, okay, what do you think? Instead of saying, boss is a problem. So you say, okay, what's the problem? What do you think are the solutions? What else could we do it? What are some of the obstacles? Okay, what else could we do instead of that? The people come up with it and say, okay, fine. Sounds like you have the solution. How do you think we should go about it? Who should you inform? What would be the action plan? Who do you need to support you? What are the relations? People will answer these questions and they'll own the solution. They'll feel autonomous and they'll go and do it better themselves. And therefore you're using the brain of everybody, not the leader who then feels exhausted at the end of the day because everybody's looking to them for solutions. So I think that would say is what I've enjoyed about coaching, that it's about, and I loved what you said about the person talking 80% and the coach talking 20%. Derek always says there's a reason for 2 ears and 1 mouth. Yes. So it's very much letting the space, letting have the confidence and thought-provoking them. And you go a long way using people's brains instead of yours.
Okay, I think so. Well, thank you, Mary. Mary is an executive coach and loves coaching. Any questions that you might have? I think the chat is now open. You can send them out to either me, Derek, or Mary to answer. And maybe it's time now to write in the chat as well. What is the one thing that you think you can pick as your nugget, as your to do for you and your team that will actually make a difference? Maybe you can share that on the chat. Derek?
So, Vicky, yeah, I'd like to do something interesting. We had one of our participants, she's been here before, Janet Mawio, and she had a very interesting comment in the chat box, and I would just like to unmute her so that she can further elaborate on that particular comment, and then maybe yourself and Mary can respond to that particular comment.
Okay.
So, if Janet, are you there? Have you been unmuted?
Yes, I have. I hope you can hear me.
Oh, we can hear you very well. Tell us a little bit about your comment. I found that so interesting, and I thought it'd be great to bring you into this conversation and see what our experts have to say. Go ahead.
Thank you. I didn't know I was starting trouble. When I saw
Yes,
those,
no.
what came to mind when I realized unplugging is a problem, then I said, these are young folks, these are young professionals. Those of us who are not having lots of distractions, I have no children to coach, my kids are out of my house. You just end up going on and on and on. And, you know, I have my notebook somewhere. And, you know, for a couple of weeks, I've really struggled to create boundaries. So my action is to create boundaries because of just, there's a team to deal with, there are emergencies we are dealing with, and I happen to be without anyone distracting me. So of course, when I see that, then I can see the reason unplugging is not a problem. It's because they have other distractions around them. If you have no other distractions, you just keep moving and moving, and you're almost being, your health is now the hazard you have to deal with.
So true.
Mary, what do you have to say to that?
Maybe that
Thank
was
you,
the
Janet.
problem with the global survey, actually, the demographic.
Yeah. I think Janet is absolutely right. And I happen to know Janet. She's actually a CEO of a major organization, and I think there are 2 or 3 of them. And her life is constantly conference calls abroad with donors, funders here, property, philanthropy. And I think what happened in Europe, many of them live together. Small, you know, they you know, small, 1 child, 2 children. Many people are very independent. They're not like us who live with staff, with children, with mothers, with family, your aunties, and people going to school, supporting so many people. And I think what Janet's talking about is that unplugging, because there are not so many distractions. You don't have all those people around you. And I do have 2 girlfriends who are actually living alone. And, you know, they're even saying, I'm now even cleaning my apartment. How do you decide the time for work is over, switch it off, and go on to now my private life, even if you don't have people, because you deserve it. You're a person yourself. And to be healthy, and this is where I think, Derek, you could reply to about keeping healthy. Remember, I'm still struggling to keep healthy, to walk, to do those things. You can end up overextending your emotional, mental, and your health. Sometimes I sit for 4 hours and I haven't gotten up. And I remember, oh, Derek talked about getting up and doing some exercises. So how do you say that I deserve to have space to be well also? And maybe use that time, Janet, to call a few girlfriends and have an online chat. I had one last Friday. Vicky organizes for coaches some Fridays. We had one international one. We have local, just to get together with friends other than just work. Because if your life is completely unplugged and work takes over, your own health as a leader will suffer. And then you will not be able to make strong decisions because you'll be exhausted. I have found those online meetings completely exhausting. I think they're more exhausting than the physical meetings. I don't know what you say, Derek.
You know me, Mary, I'm a huge proponent. I think physicality equals mentality. There's a direct correlation to how we perform based on our physical bodies. This temple of the Lord, this temple that the Lord has given you. So waking up every day, doing your push-ups, getting your walk in, to me is golden. So.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Fantastic. So there are, yeah, go ahead.
Vicky, you have something to add to Janet, because that's a very big risk for senior leaders, and I think they can reach a point of exhaustion, and I've seen it. You're trying to do balls in the air.
Yeah. I think they're the ones who need a lot of boundaries, probably more than we do. But as you were saying, Derek, about keeping the body moving, and I mean, start where you are. Start by understanding why that you're actually not unplugging. You know that thing for, hi, my name is so, and I am an unplugger, some situation like that. So start by, yeah, understanding I don't unplug, and it's because then I don't have distractions. So what distractions can I give myself? Maybe that's how you should think about it. Distractions can I give me? Do I need 1 hour walk? Do I need my chatting with my friends at 6 p.m.? What speaks to me? Because I mean, nothing works for, I mean, solutions are not wholesome. They're not general. They're individual. But start by, yeah, the people in the chat who find themselves not unplugging. Why aren't you unplugging? If you don't have distractions, please, by all means, create some for yourself.
So guys, I'd like to bring in somebody else who had joined us on this call. I didn't think he was going to be here. His name is John Olusola, and he's a Genos certified coach, and he's based in Nigeria. And I just thought it would be great for him to share with us his perspective on this topic, particularly in Lagos, Nigeria. So John, if you're there and you can hear me, I think you've been unmuted. Just share with us briefly.
Thank you so much, Derek. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Mary. Such a pleasure to join you this evening. It is very important that as leaders, we learn to build resilience. And much more, we need to be able to absorb shocks from our team members. I just want to share an experience I had 2 weeks ago. I lead a team of about 15 people. And then when the lockdown came globally, some of them, you know, they are stranded in some part of the world, US, Morocco, and all of that. So I needed to coordinate, you know, virtually. So I had a meeting with some set of leaders, about 5 of them 2 weeks ago. And we were trying to evaluate all that we do because of the environment we find ourselves. Time is of utmost importance. And some of them are not always available. And then one of the leaders, a reliable lieutenant, I saw I was trying to evaluate how it has been. And suddenly, I've never seen him like that before. Outburst of emotion. You know, he was angry. Well, he didn't say he was angry, but from all the evaluation he was giving, you just realized that this guy, I've never seen him like that before. You know, so I was calm. I allowed him to express himself. Others were trying to suppress him. And I said, no, let him express himself. Apparently, the lockdown is doing a lot to people's emotion. I didn't say this, but it was just somehow a mental note. And then after the whole meeting, I calmed him down and I said, yeah, I understand there are lots to be done. However, we have to make the best of the opportunity we have. In as much as we have work, we also have to balance it with other things. And amazingly, having handled it calmly, I got home at about 8 p.m. Then I got an apology from him, you know. And then the following day, I'll meet with the wife somehow. I met her in the bank, and then she was again apologizing. And I said, no, I could understand. So as a leader, we have to be ready and be prepared for the unexpected. Sometimes people have been driven to extremes by the frustration they have and by all that they have to cope with. So like Mary was talking about coaching, we should be prepared for the unexpected. Sometimes people are not in their best when they give responses, whether virtually. And to share with some of you, I quite agree that online meetings sometimes can be boring and frustrating because we've had to do this for hours. It's not our usual mode. It's not our usual mode. But keep calming yourself down to say, I am the leader, so I should expect whatever comes. And then as a leader in this hour, we also have to be the dust bin, where people can pour out their emotion, and then we help them through. Not necessarily because we don't have emotion ourselves, but of course, we can be mindful. We know how we can learn to take care of our own baggages. Thank you so much. It's been amazing being with you guys.
Thank you, John. Fantastic. And we appreciate your input. And just to give you a few more comments, Vicky, David says, will profile management team consciously and use insight in engaging them tactically and strategically. Scovia says, will continuously remind myself to take a coach position more and more, especially with the working from home situation. And let's see here. Chess says, I like the idea of a timer. I can do this on my phone to get me onto an activity every couple of hours or every hour. I think she says that she has a friend who does that to help them account for their activities. So those are some of the comments coming in. Kezi says, action going forward, get all of our people managers to go through leading remotely. This is a leadership issue. So that's what people are saying.
Yeah.
Vicky, I think you're on mute.
Yes, I muted myself when John was talking.
Okay.
So I was just thanking everyone. I know the time is running out and for attending. One of the things that we are also doing as a follow-up to this webinars is that we're offering a complimentary ECI assessment. So what is an ECI assessment, you say? It's a chance to learn how your people are actually feeling, how your team is actually feeling. So it will measure the current state, your expected state, and your ideal state. And you'll have a graph of sorts, and all these values we can talk with you and find out what we actually want to put on board. So if your team is interested, please reach out to us on info@profiles.co.ke. We'll send you this as well on email, and let us know if you'd like this to be carried out. And because I think it's better to really understand how your people are feeling, so that you can better understand how you can engage them and where they actually need support to develop more resilience at this time. But other than that, I think I'll leave it up to you, Derek, to do the closing.
Thank you, Vicky. And mine will be short and sweet. Just to thank everybody, of course, for joining us. We thank you for all your comments. Some I wasn't able to get to because of time, but we will take those into consideration. Just to let you know, just because we have finished this part of the series or webinar series doesn't mean we have other things, that we don't have other things on the horizon. We will definitely get in touch with you and let you know we have some very exciting leadership webinars coming in. We had a great one last Friday where we were joined with leaders from Rwanda, Uganda, and from Tanzania. And we're hoping to set one up again very soon. So please be eagle-eyed and look out for that. Otherwise, I'd like to, again, thank you all for attending. Thank you all for your input. And as we're all leaders over here, I'm going to leave you with this. See you at the top. See you at the top, everyone. Stay safe and goodbye. And thank you, Mary, and thank you, Vicky.
All right.
Asante sana, everybody.
Take care. Bye.
See you at the top.